Are you finding money hard at the moment? Well, today I wanted to share a perspective on this that I've really been able to work through to help me with money because I know it can cause a lot of stress and a lot of mental health challenges and actually self worth issues. And if you stay until the very end, I have an extra point for you then as well. Now, before we begin, if you want to connect with me even further and follow more of my content, you can find me on social media, linked in the show notes below. Admittedly, in the past, money has been an issue with me. Now, it wasn't necessarily because I had a bad job, because I'd get like pay rises, I do well in business, all these kind of things. Yeah, I find myself sabotaging a lot and just being a little bit reckless with it. And you even hear these stories about these millionaires who are like earning millions, but they become bankrupt, right? And it's like, how do they do that? Well, from my studies and what I've learned and my experiences and speaking to people who do really well with their money, it's often down to our psychology and our beliefs about ourselves and money that make us. Because as human beings, we're driven by our beliefs and our identities, right? And often these are very, very unconscious. And I found myself a little bit in debt, not massively, fortunately, but a little bit in debt and sabotaging the more money I'd make. And what I've learned about money is to make it very, very simple. And I'm going to give you some very simple points as always on this, is that money is just purely an exchange of value. And it's also a reflection of our beliefs about ourselves. I genuinely believe, like how we perceive ourselves. And sometimes there's a lot of work to do on that. There's a lot of work on our self-worth, and there's also the feelings we feel about life in general as well. Because I find people who are very grateful and less fearful and more in a loving place, they tend to attract more of it. Now, how does it help you by maybe being stuck in this? "Oh, I'm chasing money, I'm fearful, I've got to save it." So, like, well, saving's good, obviously, but you like got to protect it. And like, oh my god, I'd lose it. Oh, I'm struggling. Well, probably not any good because I've been there as well. So totally relate. So let's go into some points. The first thing is to ask yourself, how can I add more value? Now, this sometimes, and I always like to ask honest and open questions, like I would like a coach who asked me these kind of questions. Like I had even my recent coach was asking me some very honest and open questions. I was like, yeah, I'm missing an opportunity there. Yeah, I should have done that. Yeah, what I'm saying is rubbish. Like we're a human being at the end of the day, and we talk a lot of rubbish because we're trying to protect our fears and our insecurities, right? So you got to be honest. Are you adding value? Working hard is not the same as adding value. Now, you can do both of them, absolutely, of course. But I'll give you an example. In my own life, when I was, I want to say 23, around 23, before I started getting my promotions and realizing this stuff, I was like working very long hours. Do you know what I was doing? Photocopying things, making things look tidy on little like copies that no one really cared about, right? So it looked like I was being really like detailed on the font and all these things and these little handouts for like presentations and these things like that, right? Nobody cares, right? Like, yeah, if I was making horrendous typos and things like that, like maybe. But at the end of the day, you could probably get a machine to do that kind of thing these days, right? This was obviously like 10 plus years ago, so there wasn't quite AI. But like, ask yourself, are you adding value? It's like, there are professions I genuinely believe people are adding a lot of value in and completely underpaid, yes. In which case, I would suggest finding another job or opportunity. Now, some people are like, no, I'm so passionate about this job, I've got to stick with it. That is your choice, 100%, right? There are some amazing people in this world who do like a lot for us, right? And I believe they're completely undervalued, right? So I believe either you're not being valued by like your boss or the organization or whatever, or you just, if you're honest with yourself, you're maybe not adding as much value. Now, I started getting promoted and growing up organizations and getting a lot more in my business. And for example, I work in sales and I get paid quite a lot in that. But do you know what value I'm adding? I'm making a lot of money for the company. That's quite a lot of value, right? as opposed to me doing a load of printing and fonts and things like that. That's not making a company money. So that's just an example. So you have to be very honest with yourself. Are you adding value, or could you add more value? Or if you are adding value, maybe it's an opportunity to look elsewhere, or really explain to your boss or whatever that you're adding more value than you realize. The second thing, ask yourself, what are your beliefs? Now, this is the point where I was making more money, but perhaps like sabotaging myself a little bit. What are your beliefs about yourself? Like, what do you honestly believe about yourself and money and the world, right? If you think money's evil, you probably want to get rid of it. If you don't believe you're deserving of money, and again, like, there's a difference between a conscious and an unconscious belief. Like, consciously, most of us are like, I want money or more of it. I'd love to have loads of money. I love to win the lottery, all these kind of things. But if you've got unconscious beliefs you're not aware of, which is driving most of your behavior, you're always going to be on the back foot until you become aware of it. So ask yourself, like, what are your beliefs you heard about people talking about money when you were growing up? Like, what did your guardians or parents say? Just being very honest with yourself. What do you truly believe about money? And then asking yourself, what could be some more empowering beliefs? And it's about repetition and adding emotion to these. And then the third thing, ask yourself why you deserve an abundance of money. Your brain will look for the answer to the question you've asked it. So if you're asking yourself questions like, why am I broke so much of the time? Or why is money so hard to get? You're only going to find bad answers. So if you ask yourself, why am I absolutely hugely abundant in money right now? Or why do I deserve more money? Then you're only going to get positive answers. Okay, I've got a final point as well. Just before we get onto that, though, I want to mention that if you want to connect with me, again, that you can find me on social media, and all my links are linked in the show notes below, or just type in Jonny Pardoe into Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. Final point. Listen to someone and study someone who is very good with money and has got a lot of it, because it will rub off on you. It did for me. Like, I would study a lot of wealthy people like Grant Cardone, people like Tony Robbins. Now, am I making the amount they're making? Of course I'm not, right? But if you really want to get good with money, start listening to someone who's good with it. Even my mentor, Joseph McClendon, very good with money. I started listening to him. Or Peter Sage, like really, these guys have got a lot of money, and they got like an abundance of it. They've got certain beliefs, they've got certain behaviors in the way they interact with themselves, other people, and the world. And money's and the way they interact with money in between all those things as well. So really study one person that you admire who's got a lot of money, and what is it they believe. Now, if like you look at someone and you're like, now some people, there's some people who are like really kind, generous, beautiful, amazing people and got a lot of money, right? And they're very generous and they help people. That's beautiful, right? Maybe you want to study them. There's also, of course, some people who are maybe not so happy and abundant in other areas, but they've got a hack for being very good with money, even if they are greedy or like showing off with it, right? So it's up to you who you want to pick, right? I personally pick someone whose personality I admire as well. So that's a really quick trick, to just study and listen to someone very regularly, read their work, listen to their information very regularly if you really want to boost your ability of money. So that's what I got for you today. I appreciate you for being here. And remember to lead with your heart, not with fear.